Hello, everyone. You are listening to the C Squared podcast with Corey and Curtis. Today, we are here again with Sean Frasier. He is back for the second time, and we are going to be talking about a topic that is kind of shrouded in mystery for a lot of people, and that is the inner workings of a label. Because Sean, in addition to writing, also runs his own label. And so, first, I do want to just say thank you for joining us again. I mean, you're brave. You were here once. You're back. So I'm surprised. No.
You are both a pleasure to speak with. So thank you for inviting me back.
No, I'm joking. So just to get started, actually, let's start with how you got started with your label. What really inspired you to start the label, given that there's so much competition out there and there are so many labels? What made you want to get into the game?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd had the idea sort of bouncing around for a while, and because it feels very glamorous, to kind of have your own stable of artists that you are passionate about and releasing their music. But I never really had the time. I've always worked multiple jobs. I've been as a music journalist on the side, but I also had a corporate gig. And like a lot of other people, in March of 2020, that corporate gig was incinerated basically overnight. So for the first time in my life, I had a wealth of time and started seriously considering this label. But just like you said, I was like, well, what can I bring to a label that other people aren't doing? I don't necessarily think of it as competition. I don't feel like I'm competing with anybody else. I think very few people are going to make riches off of this industry. So if you're not doing it from a place of love, you probably shouldn't get into it, because it is it is not exactly something that is immediately rewarding. It's a lot of like building from the ground up your brand, the connections you have with artists and with the fans. Trying to start that from the ground up is a slow process. But what made me sort of take the plunge was I wanted to focus on local and regional artists here in Indiana. I felt like, as a New York transplant here, I saw the bands not really aiming as high as some of the coastal artists I have been working with in the past. And I felt like sort of the flyover state mentality of being forgotten, either by, by music media, or maybe just not seeing their bands blossom, into like touring opportunities and stuff like that. I felt like I could bring some value to the artists here that I really believe in, and sort of make them aim higher. And that's sort of what Wise Blood was born to do. Focus on local and regional, and at all times 50% of my roster or more will be local and regional. By regional, I mean the Midwest United States. And apart from that, I'm sorry, Curtis. Yes.
I have a question. Didn't want to interrupt you, but I have a question before I forget. A lot of people, when they start a record label, they spend a lot of time thinking up the name and the logo. How much actual time did it take you to think of the name and the logo?
Oh, I had a lot of bad names before this one. There were a bunch that I had sort of kicked around, but I really kept coming back to one of my favorite novellas by Flannery O'Connor, Wise Blood. And her writing has been really meaningful to me. I think there's a lot in there about creating your own path through a world that can be sort of dark and sinister, and sometimes by your own creation. So what Wise Blood is really there to do is, like, in this sort of the riffs are mean, but we're not, is our motto. So, sort of like, we want metal to maintain its sonic edge, but be very welcoming and inclusive. And owls, to me, obviously tying into the wise sort of wisdom motif. But owls, I've always sort of identified with them.
I love it.
as like an observer. So
yeah, I like it. So what were some of the names that failed the test, out of curiosity?
Oh man, I wish I had that list right here to share. There was definitely one of them had to do with like barbaric yawp of some kind. So yeah, yeah, it rolls off the tongue, Curtis. I'm a big Walt Whitman fan, so I knew it was going to be, a sort of literary name in some way. But yeah, there were some really, really crusty names that would not look as good on a banner like the one behind me. So
fair enough. Corey, I know you had a follow up.
Oh yeah, and so I know you said you want to focus on local and regional. But what about genre? Do you think that it's important for a label to have a specific like niche to what they're representing, or for them to go maybe broad so that they can appeal to more fans? Like the difference between Season of Mist, which is very, very niche with who they represent, and like Napalm or Nuclear Blast, who have a little bit of everything on their roster. Is there a specific genre you're focusing on, or is it mostly location based?
Yeah, so mine is not based on genre. I do think it's wise to have a sort of niche genre focus. So like Dark Descent, I think, is a great example. Like, you're going to get some cavernous, gross death metal. Something like Redefining Darkness in Ohio, they have a similar thing going on. Unspeakable Acts is like Dark Descent's, thrash, label on the side. I think that's really useful as a fan and as a supporter. You know what to expect. But for me, I'm starting out. It's a one-person label, and I would feel more comfortable just working on bands I'm passionate about and not worrying about genre and saying, oh, I need another death metal band like next month or in 2 months from now. So right now I'm just choosing. Basically, I'm releasing one album a month. And it has spanned, I got a stoner, like a stoner band that's coming up. I have like some power metal. I have like a dark synth project in the future. So my bread and butter, I love old school death metal. I love doom, and basically the whole spectrum of doom, and the genres outside of that, I'm a little pickier about. But yeah, it's just me. It's my personal expression of what I like. I think I have pretty good taste, but that's not for me to decide for other people.
Judging by what you send me for coverage, I would agree on your taste.
Thank you, Corin.
So, just out of curiosity here, okay, so you're not really drilling down on a genre. So, do you think that's going to be the case for the future too? Because most labels eventually kind of do at some point.
I don't think I will. No, I think I'm going to remain very open to music that just speaks to me personally, and that's sort of how I see the label. Is it's just me working on stuff that I want to spend 25 hours a week on, and then 25 to 30 is kind of what I'm doing, on top of working a 40-hour job. So to sort of warrant that expenditure of time and financial resources, I really just have to believe in that album. And I think I would get personally bored releasing death metal every month, no matter how much I love death metal. So being able to mix it up, and maybe in the future I'll do like a dark folk album. Maybe I'll have a side label just like Thomas Haywood from Redefining Darkness has. I could see something like that growing. But for now, I'm just keeping it wide open. I'm gonna stay focused on dark music, metal and punk primarily, though.
Nice.
Are there specific subgenres you wouldn't want to do that you're just like they do not click with you at all?
Yeah, I'm super picky about black metal. So war metal is probably not going to be my thing. Stuff like really super technical death metal and slam death, that's just not my taste. I'm really picky about grind and hardcore. I will release that stuff, but it's probably going to be like weirdo, off the wall, genre blending versions of that. and that's pretty much it. I think I could find examples of almost every genre that I love. And if there's an artist out there that captures my curiosity, and that resonates with me, I'll work with them. Even if it's one of those genres that I wouldn't gravitate towards.
So I want to know one thing. So how does the process of Sean picking a band work? Like, assuming a band comes, they apply to you to be released. How do you kind of determine whether they're going to be a Wise Blood band, other than the fact that you don't have a release spot open, for example? Like, let's say you're able to release, you're going to have spots. How do you kind of pick?
I'm glad you qualified that with, like,
cool.
If you have a release spot, because timing is like way outside the band's control, and I've had to turn down really rad bands because of that. So outside of that, I look for an energetic live show. I look for care taken with the recording. I guess that's probably the primary one. I have no problem with bands self-recording. There are, Mother of Graves self-recorded. I have let's see who else. I'm putting out another album soon that Not Moran, they self-recorded. But if you don't have the talent and the skill to do that, and it's a hard thing, you gotta find some pros, that can that can do your music justice, really. So I look for someone taking care of their audio. Energetic live show, like a social media presence that just tries. All I'm asking is please try. Please post a day, please. Every other day if that's too much. But those kind of three things are, and apart from that, I always ask, there's an uncomfortable sort of Q&A at the start where I kind of ask about background, ask about, any history of bigotry, violence, criminal sexuality, stuff like that. So, those are not fun questions to ask, but as the label rep, I need to know that. And it's important to me that we are sort of displaying the values that are important.
I have a follow-up on that, right? Because I know Corey wants to ask something, but so you actually do basically like a crim background check, like through a questionnaire type thing, you're saying? Is that what you...
Yeah, well, I talk to them personally, like on video, and talk to them. And obviously somebody could lie, and I do my own detective work, with people who have, are from their local scene and sort of, do that stuff. And there's always the possibility something slips through the cracks. But, how I present it is, if you tell me and I decide we're not right to work together, then it'll be that. And, I don't go public with what they tell me.
Obviously.
But because who knows how far in the past it is, and what work they've done on themselves personally. But but if they lie to me, then I'm gonna have to go public really hard with my stance on that sort of behavior. So,
well, you're the label owner, so that makes sense. I'll let you go next.
No, well, so my question is actually kind of switching gears a little bit, back into kind of the mechanics of running a label. I know that a lot of people don't really account for the overhead that comes in with they think, it's like CD manufacturing costs, but there are things that go into running a label that are far beyond that. So if somebody were thinking of starting their own label, what kind of overhead things should they expect to need to plan for, like, packaging materials and that kind of a thing that people don't think through?
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it with the packaging materials. I think when people when they think about running a label, and they think about how much fun it would be to be like the face of like these bands, most of it is just me getting really excited about packing like bubble wrap and stuff like that. So those things.
Got a good deal on Corrugate.
Yeah. I use stamps.com. I swear it's not an ad, but that's what I use personally to keep track of all my shipments. I pens and like markers that I can write my thank you notes, sealing wax, all these little things. This this big banner behind me, like all these little things that try to make your brand seem a little more professional, like I have my shit together a little bit more than just one guy in a room with a rat cage. So I would say when I started, it was about $2,000 to sort of get up and running, like to set up the LLC, to get all the materials, advertising costs, all that stuff adds up. And per album, for like a small release, like 100 CDs, 50 tapes, something like that. For a release like that, I'm going to probably spend about $2,000, probably about $2,000 to put that out. And that factors in a lot of advertising costs as well.
How much do you usually make your costs back yet, or are you kind of at the point where you're not?
I'm extremely lucky, and I am not only breaking even, but I'm making a little profit now, that I put every dollar goes right back into the label and into advertising. Eventually the dream is make a modest living doing this and getting this music out to more people. But this is year one, and I feel like all the bands that are with me are taking a risk, with a new label. Cause Curtis, like you see labels fold all the time.
All the time. Yep.
So they're taking a risk with their music that they've worked, in some cases, like Lava Born, this album, they've worked on it 2.5 years. So for them to trust me, and I'm a local guy, so they know where to find me if I mess up. But for someone like that to put their trust in me, I want to honor that and not overload it. Well, one album a month for now, but running a label is a volume game. If you want to make money, you gotta churn out albums, and I don't like the assembly line feel of that. So for now, I just take great care of like one album a month.
Fair enough. And where do you get the advertising? Are you talking like social media ads, or is it like Decibel, or it's mainly Decibel?
Yeah, so social media, you're right. Facebook and Instagram for engagement. Just to get basically run ads out there and hopefully reach people that may not be familiar with Wise Blood or the bands on it. Decibel is a big one, and obviously since I write there, they are very kind to me.
That's good.
But Albert, you've dealt with Albert, he's no one's going to bully Albert. So if he doesn't like music, it's not getting in that magazine. I'm definitely, perhaps I have his ear because we have a friendship, but there's nothing I can do to make him like my bands.
Well, that's a common misconception, I think, is that writers just automatically just have an in when they write for someplace, and it's just not the case most of the time.
Oh yeah. It's I get turned down for coverage by my friends all the time. It's just their schedules are locked in, or it's just not their genre. And there's no hard feelings. I don't feel entitled to anybody's time, because Curtis and Corey, like very few of these writers are getting paid, so anytime they spend out of their busy life, I feel very appreciative of.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Corey, do you want to do a follow-up before I do my next one?
Oh, no, go for your next one.
Okay, so now you're basically handling your own PR aspects of things. You're handling your own advertisement. You're basically handling everything. How do you kind of fit that all in every week when you also have a full-time job?
It's brutal. No sleep is basically, I have 4 to 5 hours of sleep, no social life. But it will get easier. It will get easier over time. And right now I'm treating concerts like the one I had last night. That's my social time. I set up my little booth, my little canopy, and people will come hang out. It actually started like storming at the end of the show. So we had all these people huddled under the Wise Blood canopy for Sanctuary. And it felt very metaphorical. So, but yeah, it's hard. But over time, I hope, like now that I'm making a very modest profit on each album, I would love to outsource some PR stuff. I would love to maybe hire people to do ads for me and handle the social media aspects that are tough to fit into the day, especially when I'm doing my own packing and shipping, and it is not heroic, but me just, packing, 40, 50 orders in a day. That's hours, that get chewed up. So.
Okay. So basically, how much time commitment do you think the average person is going to need in order to start up a label then, just based on what?
Well, I know a few friends who run like cassette only labels, and it's like a hobby, and they do like 5 hours a week.
Well,
I'd
let's
say
want to actually make it work like you do. Like, this is a hobby. I'm going to do this. Just they actually want to turn it into a business, kind of like what you want to do. Like, how much time would a person need to actually spend doing it?
I would say you should plan on at least 2 hours a day. At least. And then when you're shipping, that's going to be an extra hour or two also.
So 3 hours.
I ship out twice a week. So Mondays and Fridays I ship out, and people have been very cool about that. They don't feel like I've never been forced to rush something like midweek. Everyone's been very understanding that I'm one dude running this thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say to make it work, 20 hours is kind of the minimum you're gonna have to commit to it.
Interesting. Corey, you want to talk about shipping with Sean, since I know you're passionate about shipping with people?
Passionate about shipping.
He's passionate about shipping.
So much as it is the bane of my existence.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, especially international. Do you have any tips for anybody looking to sell internationally? Because there's a lot of bands that can't reach other countries just due to the cost.
Yeah. So what I'll say is I'm also, sort of struggling with that aspect, and it's really hard to please the fans with international shipping without eating a lot of cost. So I would say the tips I would have right now, I'm working with a company called Pack It Up. We're just started working together, but they have like basically a warehouse in Lithuania, and I ship a bunch of stuff to them, and they are my fulfillment partner for international orders. So I front a lot of cost for that, and I try to build it into the shipping cost for the person, but it basically cuts it in half. But that's still $12 shipping, for someone, and it's not always worthwhile if they're just getting one CD or one tape. So what I try to do is just think as a fan, like, what would I want? I give discount codes for people who spend over like $20, where they can get like 25 to even 33% off their order, to show that I appreciate them ordering internationally. The shipping cost is a wash. And at the end of the day, I don't make any profit from that. The band makes a little bit off of every sale. I always make sure of that. But I don't, but I just see it, that's advertising, that's an advertising cost. And if I'm getting free advertising, not my labor is not, I lose my time and labor, but the fact that those packages are getting out to people in Europe, or like I have a fan base in Indonesia right now with some bands there. The fact that they're going to share, like, oh, look, like I got this cool thing from the States, that can only be good for the label. So I would say be patient. And over time, once you have the volume, you can get really good shipping rates. I'm not there yet. So hopefully soon, hopefully next year, that's the goal.
Are we done with shipping, Corey? Because I got a contract question if Sean's willing.
Go for it. Go for your contract question.
Okay, so how does it, if you're willing to say, obviously, I'll preface it with as long as you're willing to tell us, how does it work with the contract and the signing the bands? Because some labels will just do product deals, but you also mentioned, it sounded like you were doing you were paying them for sales. So how does it work for you personally?
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with labels just doing product deals. That's pretty standard. I would from a band perspective, I would ask for at least 20%. 20 to me is fair. If it's vinyl, sometimes it's less because of the cost. But I offer between 20 to 25%, depending on the artist, and I also offer a dollar for every item sold. So that it's a small gesture, but that basically is like a half to a third of my profit anyway. That goes right to the band. It's hard to make money on $8 tapes.
Well, I was going to say, like, do you you're breaking even still doing that? So that's pretty darn good. Yeah. Okay.
And it's just important to me because you've both been in the business. Like, the artist is usually the last one that gets paid.
Generally,
like with whatever scraps are left.
Yeah.
So I just make sure, again, maybe moving forward that will change. I hope not, though, because I think it's really important to me that the band takes something from every sale. It's their art, and I'm just renting it basically. So that's how it goes for me. I also ask for the digital streaming rights, so I can put it on Bandcamp. I split that with them. It varies, but usually between 33 to 50%.
Okay.
So I'll split that with them. And then I just every month, within 2 weeks of the next month, I send them their money, and these bands are like, whoa, I've never been paid before by a label. Thank you. There's a lot of gratitude from them, and it's mutual, because without them, I don't have a label, so.
So does this include like Spotify too, or just Bandcamp?
Oh yeah, thank you, Curtis. That's a great question. I encourage them to set up their own digital distribution.
Okay.
I'll pay for it. I'll pay for that for them. But it's on their account. They control it. They get all the residuals from Spotify and YouTube, and all that. I don't want anything to do with like owning their music. So so that's what I tell all these bands: protect your music at all costs, unless it's somebody like Metal Blade or Nuclear Blast that's going to like change your path in your career. Hold on to those, hold on to the rights to your own music. And I don't even want to get involved with, running their digital distribution at that level. I just do Bandcamp, and then they can, do whatever they want.
Before Corey pops in, okay, so you're paying for the Spotify. Why do you pay for the Spotify then if you're letting them take the whole money from it? Out of curiosity.
Because it helps me still, it still helps spread their music. And if people hear it on Spotify, they might come and order something like a physical item, or they'll hear about my next band. So it's really anything that I feel is imperative, for the reach of the music, I'll pay for. There's some other elements like, mixing and mastering and studio time that I don't really pay for. I expect in most cases a finished product to reach me. However, I also talk to bands throughout the demo process. I'm like, keep me in the loop, and I offer an incentive for people if they use my preferred engineers. So I'll say I'll sweeten the pot and I'll give you $100 towards mastering if you use one of this list of people that I would hand select for this. And a bunch of them have taken me up on that. We've worked with Dan Swano and Joel Grind. And there's artists that I really want to work with. So I'll chip in for album art. Like, oh man, I won't bring that out, but yeah, I just love, whatever influence I can have to make it a more professional product, I'll do, and I'll do it politely, but I'm opinionated, and I'm very I think I'm easy to work with, but I always have opinions, and they don't need to take me up on it, but it's usually in their financial interest to do so.
Well, yeah, for sure. Corey, I'll let you ask the next question.
So when it comes to finding bands, do you get a lot of like inbound requests coming from bands, or is most of it you going out and finding the bands that you want to work with versus them coming to you?
Yeah. I mean, I get submissions every day, for sure. Not as many as for decibel coverage, that's like 40. I get like 40 promos a day, for that. But with Wise Blood, I basically get like one a day. And obviously releasing one album a month, that's a lot of sorry, no thank yous. That's not fun to break news to people. But most of the people I release music with, I know personally, because they're here in Indiana, or I met them networking through years as a music journalist. So most of them, I guess I don't accept them through the submission process, but there have been two. The Vexing Hex, the second album I released, that was a submission. That was a cold submission. And Not Moran, and they have members in Sweden, Indonesia, and Japan. That was a project that I accepted after hearing the submission too. Actually, you know what? That's not true. Kriegsgrave, also. That's I'm releasing in August. I knew the band. I was familiar with them, but they reached out to me out of the blue. And that was really cool because Corey, I know you just heard that album, and that's like
big fan.
Yeah.
He sent it to me too, and I loved it. I did a short period for the band a few years ago,
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't know you had a connection to them. That's rad.
Small, tiny. I think I did like tour promo for them or something like that, like 4 years ago.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But anyways.
So what were the things that made those ones stand out to you, even though they were cold? What were the things that you were like, okay, wow, yeah, I need to work with these guys? Because like you said, it's going to be, potential of 1 out of 30 if you're still that lucky to get through. What stood out to you about those guys?
Number one is that they wrote a personalized cover letter. That's always number one. Like, I'm a person who really appreciates attention to detail, and personalization. Anything that creates that human connection. And both of them referenced some of the values that I've expressed as a label. They referenced bands on my label, like specific albums and all that stuff. That means a lot that they're keeping track. And then number two is just the music was fantastic, and was scratching the itch that I didn't know I had. So for Kriegsgrave, I was like, wow, I didn't know that I really wanted to put out this, atmospheric, black and doom, Agalloch sort of music, but I need to release this album. I felt like a hunger to release that one. For Not Moran, they're like really fun, thrashy, like Motorhead, Midnight sort of stuff. And I've wanted to work with a band that captured that like sort of dirty, old school, like first wave black metal vibe. It was just like the right music at the right time, and the package of the music and the pitch, just it made it hard for me to say no. And that's all you can do, is like make it hard for me to say no. Do your homework and give me some great music.
So I have a sort of a follow-up question, sort of a not follow-up question. So like, okay, so when you're doing your pitching to get reviews and everything like that, how do you send it? You don't do physical copies, do you? You just do digital, or what do you do?
Yeah, so this is something that I hope to change over time and do something more professional along what you and Corey do. But like use a publicist eventually. But right now, basically, I send a unlisted YouTube link so they can stream it. They don't have to like download anything. Set that up in advance, and I also send them an exclusive download on Bandcamp, and where the album is also unlisted, so they can see everything. And I think especially writers that aren't for major publications, they appreciate being able to download the Bandcamp thing, show it in their collection. That stuff for bloggers I think is meaningful.
Well, it looks good. because it shows up on the downloads too, and it looks like you got more people.
Yep. So, all that stuff helps me, and I think gives some extra value to the blogger. So that's what I'm doing right now. I attach an EPK, with a bio that I personally write. All that stuff, a quick pitch, hopefully, and that's that. And I try not to follow up and bother people until the week of.
Sorry.
No, you're never a bother, Curtis. Never.
Yeah, right. But anyways, the week of release. So you wait until the week of release to follow up. That you only do one time.
Well, if it's for a premiere thing, I'll follow up before that.
Okay.
If it's just for generic coverage or review, I don't really follow up with that stuff. At this point, I feel very confident in my relationships with a lot of my target blogs, and the writers for those know that I'm coming from a genuine place. And but apart from that, I want to get better at reaching out to YouTube channels, and I think that's a medium where I could really use growth and strengthen that bond. So that's kind of like the next frontier for me, is like how do I connect with people on YouTube, because those people are really passionate about metal and sharing it with their viewers and stuff too.
Yeah. No, that's something I need to do as well, because there's a huge audience there. But one thing I think too, though, is that probably one of the benefits for you is the fact that you write at decibel. So it's kind of like, I'm not saying decibel is the thing, but it's kind of like when a writer at a known publication has a label, you kind of know it's going to have quality to it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I would hope so. I think, the decibel element, I've been really careful to be ethical about it, and like be open that I write there. But I think you're right, though. I think if people recognize my name from that publication, and know that I haven't unfairly smeared anybody. I'm not an egomaniac with my writing. So I think you're right, though. I think it helps me get my foot in the door, and with opportunities I wouldn't as a new record label otherwise.
Yeah, no, 100%. Corey, you got a question for Sean before I continue?
Nope, you go for it.
Okay, so moving right along. So now pricing. So we only got a few minutes left, just so you know, because I got another call. I got to hop on at 7 o'clock.
No problem.
So pricing. How do you kind of determine the pricing of the different things that you're selling?
I price to sell quickly. Just like I basically want it to be difficult for someone to say no to buying something. So for digital downloads, we're doing $5. I think eventually, once they're out for a little while, we'll make it a pay what you want. But for now, we're doing $5 right off the bat, and the CDs and cassettes are all $8. I always suggest bands price their shirts to be affordable, because again, all of that stuff, all of it's advertising too.
Yep.
And the business side of music is something that not always a priority for the band, and I understand that. So I think my role sometimes is just say, hey, this is all stuff that you can do to get your music to more people. The more people that are wearing your shirts, people will be inquisitive about those shirts. Those could be people at your shows later. So price things to sell them quickly. I wouldn't really worry about maximizing profit off of every item. Like the way you do that is by getting more listeners, by getting people excited about your music. So I see a lot of people with like $25 t-shirts or $50 hoodies, and I'm just like, man, like how many of those are you going to sell per show? Like, sure, if you sell 3 of them, you got a good profit, but that's only 3 people that are going to be repping your band around. So that's, to me, and again, maybe when you add up the dollars and cents, maybe that doesn't make sense, but for me personally, I'm more about spreading the music, and that is the key to a band's success, not a couple extra dollars.
I agree 100%. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else we want to wrap up with you on. I know one more thing, at least for me. What do you think is the best format for your label to be releasing on?
Well, I'm not doing vinyl right now. Vinyl's the next year, like a 2022 thing, hopefully. Yep. CDs though, like CDs and digital are what sell most. Cassettes I top off. I think Corey and I were talking about like the right amount of cassettes to for me 50. Like 50 is exclusive. The people who love cassettes will buy those up, and I sell those out really quickly. Sure. And so I think cassettes are more of like a luxury love item, it's more of a niche thing. So I love them, and I'm going to keep doing them, but there's just not a whole lot of upside with selling those.
Fair enough. And then how many CDs do you normally do? I noticed that the last one you did it actually sold out, didn't it? Am I mistaken?
Yeah. Grave Ripper, we did a opening of 300 and those sold out.
Wow, that's fucking cool. Okay, so that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really super proud of those guys. Yeah. And so I got another box of 100 right here that I'm ready to ship out, and those are going to sell out in a week or two, I bet. So but usually it's a modest 100 to 200 CDs first investment. Yep. And they're just so easy to reorder and receive quickly that I just tell the band, it's not, this isn't a slight towards you. It's just why assume that risk when I could just order another 100 and it would be here in a week. So
stupid when bands go and they buy like 1,000 CDs or whatever.
Yeah, like you can get a good per CD price, but then you got 500 laying around as coasters and Ninja Stars and what else.
Yep. I've had so many bands tell me they ordered like 500, 600 vinyls, and you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Wow. That's a down payment on a house, man.
Yeah, I know.
That's an insane amount of vinyl.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I'm not going to say the bands I know who've done that, but I've known a few. What are the final questions we have for Sean, Corey? You get to have a final question if you want.
I don't have a final question. That's the problem.
Okay. Sean, what should be our final question to you, or what is anything that you would like to say? Yeah.
Wait, what was that?
What is something that we haven't covered that you think everybody should know about running a label?
I think running a label, at the end of the day, it's about the bands and the fans, and all the other stuff is noise. I think if you take care of the bands and get fans excited, it takes care of itself. It really does. And I think keeping it simple like that, I've had a lot of people ask like, well, what causes you the most stress? Shipping. But at the end of the day, the stakes are pretty low here. I know I'm going to do my best to take care of everybody that relies on me. So I would just say come to it with like a really genuine enthusiasm for each project. And just do your best, because at the start, Thomas Haywood, that I mentioned a couple times from Redefining Darkness, he told me, listen, nobody knows what they're doing when they start. Like nobody knows, and you bumble your way through. And if you can get through that first year, you could be golden. You learn on the way. It's all about the reps. Just like anything, no one's good at it immediately. So,
yep, fair enough. I guess that's all we got for today then. So party on, Corey.
Party on, Curtis. Party on, Sean.
Party on, guys. Thank you so much.